terms. And then I jumped to IFMSA and took more international role in the federation.
Thank you so much, Mustafa. Thank you for being here. Our next guest is Firas Yassin, who was VPPRC for the term 2016-2017. Hello, Firas. Can you also share with us?
Yes, of course. So with Mustafa, I was Publication Support Division Director in the term 14-15. That was my first involvement with IFMSA on the international scale. However, I started before that as Publication Support Division Director in my NMO LEMSIC, where I stayed in the post for about 2 years before. And then, yeah, things go on from one position to another. Then I was in VPPRC, and then I was in the subco. And here we are today. I'm very happy to be invited to this webinar. It's very good to be involved with IFMSA activities again.
Thank you so much for being here. So our next guest is Jose Chen, who was VPPRC in 2018-2019. Jose, can you share your road with us?
Yes, so hello everyone again. My name is Jose Chen. I'm from Portugal. I started my my road in my local branch in Porto. I was a communications and image coordinator in my local branch. And then I advanced to the national level, but in SCORP. So I was National Officer for Human Rights and Peace Issues. And afterwards, I worked internationally in SCORP as a general assistant in SCORP. And because I was dealing also with a lot of publications and social media and a lot of media platforms and online platforms, I worked a bit with Firas as well there. And 2 years later, I applied to be VPPRC and I got the position. So that was.
Thank you, Joseph, for being with us. Our next guest is Saad Shaibi, VPPRC of the term 2019-2020. Hello, Saad. Can you share your road as well?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hello, Olga. I'm really happy and pleased to be here with you to celebrate the 70th anniversary of IFMSA and also to be with my colleagues and previous VPPRCs and next VPPRCs. I started with my local committee. I was an active member working with SCOMI and like medical education, and then took some leadership position. I was VPI locally, then LC president, and then as NMO president for 2 years for IFMSA Morocco. I got to work with a lot of people and work on like the initiatives on PR and communication, and then I know that I had this fiber for PR and communication, and this took me to apply for the position. And I was really happy to be IFMSA EB for 1920 and VPPRC for 1920. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Seth, for being here. So, of course, we have with us our current VPPRC, Amin Youssef Ali. Amin, you can also share your story with us.
Thank you so much, Olga, and thank you to everyone that's here with us today. So I also started my journey in SCORP, locally, then nationally, and I mean, not weirdly, but when I was also National Officer on Human Rights and Peace, I found myself doing more PR than actual, other work on human rights and peace. And from there, PRC was also an evident journey for me. My first ever exposure internationally was in Jose's term in Spread It of AM 2019. And from there, I became the PRC assistant of SCORP for the SCORP international team. And then I found myself applying for VPPRC 2021. And here I am, still having a lot of fun in this position, still trying to do a lot of things for IFMSA. And it has been a very, very amazing and satisfactory and just enriching journey from, in all of its sizes. So thank you so much, Olga, and I'll give you back the floor.
Thank you so much, Amin. And of course, our last guest, last but not least, is our BPPRC-elect, Mustafa Kosher. Hello, Mustafa.
Hello, Olga, and hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be here with all of you and with all of these amazing BPPRCs who contributed so much to IFMSA previously. So my journey also started within IFMSA as in PRC. I was the publication support division director for my NMO for 2 years. And then I got more exposed to the international structure of public relations and communication in the August meeting of 2019, thanks to Jose. And then I was able to continue work in the international team with Saad as a content creator, and now with Amin as a general assistant. And I'm really excited to serve as the next BPPRC.
Thank you so much, Mustafa. And before we continue, I would also like to introduce Ines, who would co-moderate with me this webinar. Ines is External Affairs Regional Assistant for Europe. Thank you, Ines, for being here. Let me just, okay. So right now we will go through the evolution of IFMSA PRC in the last decade. So of course we will start with Mustafa Ozan Alpay. Mustafa, you have the floor.
Thank you. In the year, actually, if we can go a slide further, I think there was a miss up with the order in the slide. Before diving into the details, I would like to talk about what brought the VPPRC position to life on IFMSA. And it was a part of the IFMSA Big Four, something called IFMSA Big Four, which had 4 pillars, as the name suggests. The first one is the new leadership structure, which included moving some of the support divisions into some new EB members and changing positions and having the leadership structure of IFMSA that we have today. And the second one was secretariat, having a secretariat in Amsterdam. I think it is not in Amsterdam anymore, but the third one is the strategic plan of IFMSA, and the fourth one is the IFMSA programs. And with the new leadership structure, IFMSA changed how it is behaving on the executive board and team of officials level, because we had 5 support division directors back at the time: new technologies, publications, alumni support division, and we had projects, and we had one more, training support division, I'm sorry, yes. And by changing these positions and kind of upgrading them into EB positions, IFMSA was ended up with having 7 EB members, and that was the shift that created the new IFMSA structure that we know today. And the VPPRC is a position that merged the publications director and the new technology support division director and the former VPE positions, and created a new position that solely works on the public relations and communications and those kind of image related issues, actually. That's what I wanted to talk about. Thank you.
I didn't unmute myself, sorry. Of course, for 2014-2015, also Firas was working as a publication support division director. So Firas, can you share with us also?
Yes, so as Mustafa was saying, this was the last year that we had the support division structure, and we were, because the strategy was already adopted before, so we were all preparing for the shift in the leadership structure. So we had to figure out a way forward whereby one position, which is the VPPRC, would now be handling work that was being done by 3 different positions previously. So the new technologies, the publications, and also part of the VPE at the time. So in terms of publication that year, we managed to make sure that we updated the IFMSA corporate identity guidelines, made them a bit stricter. We managed to centralize all of the publication productions, meaning that, yes, we created a lot more workload for the officials and their assistants, but at least we managed to come out with a unified, or at least, consistent image in our publications, which was a jump, whether it was a big jump or a small jump. It was a jump nonetheless, and it was it set the path forward. At the time, the social media accounts were all managed by the VPE, so my job was a bit more to prepare some kind of media in terms of images or small videos or any kind of similar media to go along with the posts, but it wasn't part of my direct tasks to manage the platforms themselves. However, the idea was to ensure as much growth as possible in those areas, because we wanted to, reach as many members as possible, not only those that, attend regional meetings or SRTs or GAs. We wanted to reach out to all 1.3, 1.4 million medical students that are part of IFMSA.
Thank you so much, Firas. So 2015 and 2016 term was the first term of the VPPRC post, and that VPPRC, of course, was Mustafa. Mustafa, do you have anything to share with us?
Yes, the 2015, as you mentioned, was the first term of the VPPRC, and it was, in a sense, very challenging because acting on behalf of a position that did not exist before and merging all these three different workloads and trying to manage them and understanding different requirements that is needed by those positions was very challenging. And but I believe we had some good fruitful outcomes out of this because I don't know, back at the time it was seemed very complicated for us to make the shift to the new structure. But I think today, when I look at IFMSA, I am very happy with the outcomes. I see that it evolved in a way that it makes the position very well. And I wanted to say that thank you for inviting me to this webinar, because after, like, it was 6 years before, I had hard time remembering what we did back at the time. I had to go through my old archives, check some old emails, try to find some old documents that what we did, what was the reports and everything. It brought lots of good memories and it brought lots of good energy to my life today. So I would like to thank about that. And if we can move on to the next slide, I have some other topics regarding my term. Back at the time, the bylaws had these three different kinds of tasks that was for the VPPRC. The first four that you can see is more like of the former VPE tasks. The next three are more like the publications director tasks, and the last one is somewhat between the NTSTD and the VPE. So the bylaw says that VPPRC merges all these tasks into a new position. And in the next slide, I will be talking about some achievements. I don't want to talk about everything, but there are some, I picked two major ones. The first one was the merchandise that I want to talk about, because merchandise is, I think, one of the most visible publications, not publications, but promotional materials that IFMSA is, because it's something you wear, something you carry around, and it's colorful, it's interesting. People, when people see the logo, they think, oh, what is it? I want to learn about it. And one of the things that we worked hard on my term was to ensure the sustainability of the merchandise, because IFMSA is a huge organization with lots of events around the world, and carrying all those items around the world was not efficient, was bad for the environment because of the carbon footprint and everything. And we had to deal with customs, import laws. It was very hectic. So we decided, okay, we need to find a sustainable way to make sure that the merchandise is happening. And we decided that for big events like the GAs, we should try to create the merchandise as local as possible, so we would avoid the importing fees and those transfers and dealing with national governments to tell that we are not selling them for profit, but it's for IFMSA and everything. And during my term in the GAs, the March meeting and the August meeting, we produced these items locally. And for events that are not as big as the GAs, like the regional meetings or TNTs or SRTs, we distribute some of the items to the officials so they can bring them with to the event with them, and they can sell these items during those events. And with that, we avoided lots of the cost that was about transferring those items and import fees and customs laws and those kinds of things. So I put some pictures from the March meeting back at 2016. On the next slide, I would like to talk something about little bits about social media. Back at the time, there were 4 big social media channels. The biggest one was Facebook, and IFMSA Pursued Goals in my term has a goal that says, like, in the end of the term, each of our social media channels should have at least 25% increase in the outreach and connectivity to our users. And to check that, we created a tracking document that allowed us to check everything. And in this graph, you can see that we have increase of all of our channels. The biggest one was Facebook, of course, at the time. And on average, we had 33.5-ish increase back at the time. And we also created a Snapchat account back at March meeting in that term. And that was big and happening at the time. And people were sharing snaps and sending replies to us. It was very interesting. I'm not sure if it's still being used, but it was something. And to ensure the increase in the social media, we decided we should create social media strategies, and we should plan everything so events are not clashing with each other, and we are having a good program on sharing things. And to have that, I had meetings with support division directors and programs coordinators to know, okay, what are your events throughout the year? Like, do you have a plan? Do you have a program? What do you want to share at which time? So we can put everything on a calendar, we can schedule them, and we can create the best outcome out of these items. And with that, I think we achieved something good. And as the graph suggests, it was something useful. Of course, we had some other things that happened back at my term, but I don't want to talk about it until forever. So I will yield the floor. But I remembered one thing. I think around May of 2016, our Twitter got verified. So that was a good thing that about that term as well. So I just remembered it right now. So thank you. If you have any other questions or anything you want to ask, I can be happy to answer them later.
Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you so much. We will go into questions later today. So right now, we will talk about the term 2016-2017. Firas, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I actually want to stress on a couple of ideas that Mustafa was talking about. So in terms of one thing that he mentioned about merchandising, it's the promotional tool of IFMSA. I remember we were one time coming back from a GA, and it was the August meeting in Taiwan. And we were going from Taipei to Dubai, and the flight was almost full of IFMSA members going back. And almost everyone was wearing their Scorp t-shirts, their Scora t-shirts, their IFMSA merchandise, etc. To the point where the cabin crew noticed, and they were like, "Oh, what is this? What is that?" I'm like, that was actually a really, really, really fun flight to be on. So yeah, you see that even small things that we used to do, even back then, we didn't have like, up until my term as VPRC, all of the efforts were internal to IFMSA. So it was all the officials who were holding the position as VPRC, but also the team of officials as a whole, discussing the priorities, discussing the ways that we can improve our visibility, but also with the help of our assistants. And then Jose will talk about that later. We had an external advisor come in and professionalize our image, and I'll leave that to Jose. So yeah, the things that we worked on in my term as VPRC were mostly preparing for the second strategic plan, which was from 2017 to 2020. And this further took into account that, yes, as visibility needed to grow, these tasks couldn't be at the level of support division anymore. And this further validated the switch from support divisions to having an EB position. An EB position that was able to coordinate with all of the LOs, with all of the standing committee directors, with all of the regional directors, to really know what is happening and what needs to be projected in order to share with our members first, but also with our partners and our sponsors. So we really wanted to have PR and communications as a big part of the upcoming strategy. So there was an entire pillar on it. We continued our work in social media platforms, and during my term, the one that was growing the most in popularity was Instagram. We continued the trial and error part with Snapchat, although unfortunately it didn't last for too long. Instagram was a major outlet. We kept using all of them, of course. So Twitter was being reserved for all of the official external meetings. Facebook had the main page, but also the different groups whereby we'd share longer versions of our news and our updates. But Instagram was the most engaging one for our members. We'd have stories, we'd have polls, we'd have all of the features that Instagram offered. We made sure that every big meeting that we do, be it a GA or a regional meeting, would have its own press release. And in collaboration with the organizing committees, we would have these press releases not only published on our IFMSA website, but also shared with local and national media as well. In terms of sponsorship, we managed to grow a bit more because we had, for the first time, we had the big up-to-date sponsorship. And then later on, we had smaller sponsorships that were targeting events, so GAs and RMs, not the entire activities of IFMSA. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my term.
Thank you so much, Firas. Right now, we are going to talk about the term 2018-2019. José, floor is yours.
Hello. I have a couple of slides. I hope you don't mind. So I'm going to start. As you can see, I was VPPRC 2018-19. There's a term missing, 17-18, which the position was held by one person who then resigned. So it was a bit inconsistent in terms of PR. So my term was all about sustainability, was all about trying to make the position sustainable and to have a team that could tackle the needs that IFMSA had in terms of publications, in terms of things that we wanted to do, in terms of the strategic plan, because as Firas said, we had two pillars dedicated to PR and communication, if I recall. And one of the things that we did was hire an external advisor, and I'll go into that later. So this was my team at the time. I had 8 people working with me that worked very well, and I started the term actually doing webinars for them to streamline and for them to build capacity on how things were supposed to be done or could be done, like the baseline things that we wanted IFMSA to convey. So that was my team. And next slide, please. So in terms of publication, social media and online platforms, we did some changes. So some of the fonts were changed because there were some issues with the old ones. We changed a bit of the video intros and outros and the t-shirt designs. Here's one example, the Score Angel t-shirts. And then, as Firas said, we did an external consultation and we hired, actually it was a Portuguese company that developed like a document. So they did assessed our social media and all our online platforms. And then they developed kind of recommendations on how to improve and some kind of a strategy, social media strategy for us to focus on for the next few years. And out of that, I started the implementation of those measures. And one of the things I started was the streamlining of the templates for social media. This is one of the examples we had. So the logo on top, so that it could look similar. The posts that we had on social media were similar. And that was mostly it in terms of social media. We also tried to invest on the online platforms. We started some, and we set the online training Moodle and prepared the content as well and the structure. And next slide, please. And then with my team, we developed more than 200 publications in terms of manuals, booklets, the MSI, reports, I don't know, so many things that we did in terms of, and also campaigns and posters. So we collaborated with all the standing committees and also external organizations. For example, there was an AMR campaign that one of my assistants participated in and produced all of the content for social media. And also here it's one of the examples of the things we did, the newsletter as well. Firas also talked about the sponsorship and fundraising. We did have 2 more fixed sponsors and others for specific events like GGA, of course. We adopted an internal sponsorship and fundraising database that I was working with the VPF. So me and the VPF would have the database and work together and keep track on what we had and the situation and all the contacts that we made. And the fundraising database, which is available online in the website. Next, please. The data protection issue was one of the things that fell into the VPPRC. As you know, the GDPR went into full, so it was adopted in 2016 and it started being implemented in the European level on 2018. So we had a lot of things to prepare, to adapt, to change in IFMSA, and we did have to change because this is a legal issue. So we adopted a lot of legal documents. Some of them were already done the term before by Satria, for example, the privacy policy. Then we developed the cookie policy, the internal privacy policy, and the exchange privacy policy. And then the procedural documents, which we needed to do to comply with the transfer of information between NMOs, between us, and with externals as well. So, and also internally within the team of officials, so and the international assistants. So we had the NDA, the Code of Conduct for GDPR compliance, the Data Protection Addendum, which is here, and the Standard Contractual Clause, which was also done for the transfers that were for outside the EU. So these are some examples. And then next slide. We also did a data collection registry for internal, for the TO. There was a spreadsheet they would put all of the moments that they were collecting information. And then I would have to check if that was all complying with GDPR. And then externally, not that externally, but with the ITs, with NMOs, with organizing committees of our events, we also had a form so that they could not access the spreadsheet with confidential information. And we also had a GDPR implementation manual that we created for NMOs that could help them also implement GDPR on the national or local level. I have had some meetings over the years with some NMOs who asked for some tips, some ideas on how to implement as well. And this manual also helped them to implement it. So I think I have some other slides. Yes, regarding, I forgot to mention, but the press releases were one of the things we changed in our term. So it was the responsibility of the VP before, then it jumped to the VPPRC, and in my term, it was shared with the VP. So it was because the VP was also working with the policy document, so it made sense for us to share that responsibility. And lastly, we did have 2 editions of the Spread It, which was our workshop, the one in March meeting in Slovenia in the right, that we had some 8 or 9 participants, and then in Taiwan in the left, where Amin was and other people were facilitating together with me. And that was it from my term, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, of course, we will jump to year 2019-2020. Sad, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Olga. So I'm starting with this slide. It says only an agile organization can survive, but I'm not gonna develop it. It's teasing, it's a marketing technique. I will leave it for the last slide. So if you can go for the next slide, please. Okay, so I just wanted to start by saying, and it's already said by my people who were there before, that the PRC is like a very complicated field, because for me, it has this 3 levels of responsibility. It's at the same time strategic, with all what we have in the strategy, with like EB responsibilities. It's technical and it's operational. And the only way that can work, like for one person to do all these things, is to have like a strong team that is like really capacitated to take on these responsibilities. And during my term, I was very open about, how do you call it? Like empowering the team so they can do things without me. And we were very proactive. So we organized, like as Jose did in his term, like we organized training webinars in the first months. We also had very clear guidelines for decision making. So the general assistant can take some decision, the development assistant can work, and we had this very open and free environment so we can be faster and respond to the requests. Because as you've seen it, like we had more and more requests from the ITs, from the PCs about new publication, new campaigns, etc. And it was also our goal to ensure sustainability and coherence in the, not only visually, but also in the whole like IFMSA brand, that we needed to have the same people aligning their visuals, aligning the way the text is written, etc. So the team is like really, really important. Next slide. Yeah, I think for GDPR, the majority of things were done in Jose's term, with the adoption of documents and legally binding documents. What I really emphasized on in my term, that we had a mandate about GDPR responsibility between SUBCO and EB, because basically the VPPRC was acting as a data protection officer and legally responsible of data collection and analysis and all the stuff. So we made that mandate, and we had some strong recommendation about how this legal responsibility can be split between the SUBCO and the executive board. We also tried to automate a lot of things, and this is really important for organization to automate things. So for example, the SEC DPA, the NDA signing, because these documents are really important for IFMSA, and in manually doing things, it will take a lot of time, and we will skip all those great initiatives that we are working on. Next one. Also, continuing the efforts and also the strategy, we partnered with a professional learning company called Synergy to make the Moodle place a reality. And so I was really happy to see in the last month that there was the launch of the pilot courses, and I have an account. This is a screenshot for my account. And so today people can go in and learn about PRC and learn about all the amazing things that IFMSA is doing. And I'm really proud of seeing this project coming to life with Amin and his team. Yeah. Also, one great project that we worked on It was the website renewal. The Exchange database was one of the biggest projects that IFMSA has, and with a lot of like ups and downs, we figure out that we needed a refresh and we needed a new face for the IFMSA.org. There was also a lot of points in IFMSA strategy about all the databases and the alumni and the activities. And we wanted to make sure that there will be this one platform for our members to access and to have updated information, to access to database, to interact, and also to be like very user friendly. So we worked on this renewal proposal, both for the IFMSA.org, but also the Exchange database. And I'm still following IFMSA, and I see that there is a new IFMSA.org, and there is also a new Exchange database coming to life. So I'm really happy about this. Next. Yeah, just continuing the marketing strategy that was developed by the professional firm was the basis of our work. So we tried to have more content, develop our publication on the website. We tried to have a lot of content like on going to the website to strengthen our SEO. We also, by having the same team working on publication, we can achieve that coherence, that visual and text coherence that we were aiming for. Next. Yeah. Next, please. Yeah, this is also something we worked on with the whole team, is that in the beginning of the year, we figure out that there is a space to innovate for the MSI. There is a space to check what we already are doing well and what we can enhance. And so we worked on a MSI refresh with the rest of the team. And we made sure to include like that the publication would be a little bit smaller, and to have not only basic articles, but also stories, poetry, some research paper, and a lot of interesting things just to engage more people and to make it this representative publication that IFMSA has. And I was really proud of the final product of MSI 41 and 42. We also had that problem where a lot of people wanted to send like an article for MSI, but they don't know how to write it. And so we developed also some publishing guidelines that really helped strengthen and enhance the quality of our publications. Next, please. Yeah, so this is what I was saying in the beginning about agile organizations. I think the main event of my term was COVID-19. Guess what? Yeah, so I had the pleasure to have like half a physical term at least, and to be able to meet members, to go to regional meetings, to meet my team of officials, my executive board. But at the same time, when COVID hits, no one knew, and no one knows now what to do. And we knew that we need to continue, and that we needed that our impact and IFMSA activity should not stop. And so this is part of the agility of IFMSA, and how for the past 70 years, they were adapting to all the changes in this world and in this environment. And I think adapting to this virtual world was a great example for a youth organization. We managed to do like an online General Assembly. I've been to physical ones. I know that there's something, but we maintained great engagement for members, very interesting sessions, an interactive platform where people could just connect and chat. And we also ensured that plenary and the democratic process was fulfilled, even in an online platform. And just telling this to myself like a few years ago, I would say that it was impossible, but I see now that this is the new normal, and IFMSA is continuing this trend of adaptation and working on more impactful and engaging events. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sad. Amin, are you ready for your part?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Olga. And I find it I find it very interesting. Like I would like to kind of pick up from where Sad left off, because he was mentioning how IFMSA had to adapt because of COVID. And I find that very interesting as, let's say, a turning point to this term, because uh, we kind of like we are, let's say, also the COVID term. Unfortunately, everything switched to online during this term. We didn't have much opportunities to kind of like, have physical meetings or physical events. And I think that's very interesting to also see how PRC evolved due to that. So I started like this presentation with PR and communication is in everything that we do, because not only I think it's the, let's say, the result of the efforts that were going on throughout the all of the past terms, where people had more and more awareness about PRC, the involvement of PRC, why PRC is needed in all the activities and events. And also it became in everything that we do, because it had to because of COVID, because everything switched to online. And as you can see here also, there is like my international team that have been real superheroes this term, involved literally everywhere in internal affairs, in external affairs. We had a lot of, let's say, streamlined guidelines for this term for the coverage of internal affairs and internal activities, and as well as external affairs, because also external affairs, all the meetings turned to online. So we had to get creative. But also when getting creative, there needs to be rules. So we also had to set those rules so that we do not compromise any activity, uh, both internal and external, and also without compromising the results that we have on our external outlets. So next slide, please. So yeah, these are a couple of examples of what we did in terms of, let's say, social media, publications, and online platforms for, as I was saying, internal work and the external work. As you can see in the right, there's some pictures of our Instagram feed, where there's all sorts of not only campaigns and publications, but also a lot of external affairs posts, which have been very prominent this year, because, as I was saying, it turned to online, so we had to get creative with that. And we have also supported officials a lot. There has been a lot of newsletters this year, a lot of publications, and yeah, the MSI 43, which is always the IFMSA pride when it comes to publications. Next slide, please. And yeah, as I was saying, we had to survive. We had, as Sad also was saying, we had to adapt. And this year, it kind of became the new normal to have online regional meetings, online general assemblies, online SRTs, online capacity building, this and that. And I would say I'm very proud that we were able to actually have all the regional meetings online. Of course, this is mainly because of the regional teams and their motivation, but the PRCIT have also been involved heavily in the branding of these meetings and supporting online platforms, in trying to find ways for online engagement, creative ways to not lose that engagement that we normally have in physical events. And we also had the March meeting 2021 that was online, which I think if it wasn't also for previous term for the August meeting 20, we would have been lost. But we had an example to follow. So it kind of made things a little bit easier for us. And now we're heading to the August meeting 2021, which will be the first hybrid IFMSA General Assembly. So that's something that we will talk about maybe after and see how it will go then. And then the next slides are just a couple of maybe achievements or a couple of highlights that I wanted to show, which is one, we had a long process that started from last term, actually, about revisiting the IFMSA brand, as well as to transition from a corporate identity guideline to a brand manual. So we had that process also with an external professional marketing company, where we kind of like had a lot of consultations with members as well as consultations with them. And we were able to create the first edition of the brand manual that was adopted in last and in the next slide, which is the second part of this of this process, which is to revisit the visual identity, not only to unify the outlook and to unify the logos, but as well to enhance it, to modernize it, and to have some sort of youth and dynamic feeling in our visual outlets. I cannot show this visual identity here because we're kind of like keeping it a little bit for the lunch to not lose. But yeah, I can show it to you later. So maybe there's like just the teaser on the right, like to have snake. For me, it doesn't feel hard, but I don't know. So this was one of the highlights of the term. Next slide, please. Another highlight was, as Sad was mentioning, that last year they started the renewal of the website, the IFMSA.org. And thanks to another website or IT company, we were able to finish the process this year, and we have launched the IFMSA.org. The Exchange database is in progress. And we also finally had the migration from Yahoo to Google Groups, which has been proven to be a more sustainable platform for email communication and so on. And I think the last part that I wanted to talk about is capacity building in the next slide. Capacity building, I'm a big fan of capacity building. So I wanted really to kind of like try to bridge the gap to bring PRC closer to members. So we had a lot of fun with capacity building this year. We had the first online PRC workshop called Practice Makes Perfect. Here's like a screenshot of the participants. It was very fun. It was also a very enriching experience. We had like a very nice graduation experience for everyone. We also had the PRC webinar series in the second half of the term. The next slide, please, which is I think the last one. And we finally also had the standardization of PRC capacity building. So basically what we did is we compiled all the efforts that were done in previous years when it comes to PRC capacity building, in addition to maybe some of the things that we added according to the needs assessment. And we were able to draft the first PRC capacity building regulations that were adopted in and we kind of like also created a toolkit that will be released today. So this is kind of like exclusive, I guess, a toolkit to bring these regulations even closer to members, because members tend to get lost when it comes to regulations, procedures, and we want for this workshop to be accessible to everyone. It's called the PRACT. So we will also be releasing this toolkit, Create Your PRACT, today. And one final thing that we also did, again, to bring this closer to members, was to kind of have a streamlined also communication with national PRC representatives. We have created like a PRC server. Shout out to Kevin, who is responsible for all of this, basically capacity building and this communication. We also are trying numerous platforms maybe to see how to create that network for PRC. And hopefully we will be able hopefully to bridge the gap and to build the members' capacity so that we achieve the continuous progress from local to international level. So yeah, I guess that's all from my side. Thank you so much, Olga, and I'll give the floor back to you.
Thank you so much, Amin. We have already come a long way during these past terms, but we are not only looking back, but we're also looking into the future. So because of that, Mustafa will tell us a little bit about his plans for the next term. Mustafa?
Yeah, thank you, Olga. First of all, it's like really interesting to learn about all the developments of public relations and communication throughout the past years, and to learn from the previous VPPRCs and their achievements. It was really interesting for me to learn about that. So my term is yet to begin, but since my election, I have been planning for the next term, and I'm really excited to talk to you about some of my plans for the next term that I would like to implement and that I would like to achieve. First of all, as I said, the IFMSA has gone through a lot of developments, and I believe that at some point we need to build up on what has been developed within IFMSA to reach a higher level, or like to reach more audience and to enhance our image as well. And the brand transition from CI to brand has been one of the most interesting projects that I have been worked on since the past 2 terms. And I'm also really glad that I have been a part of it somehow as an assistant, but it's even more exciting to know that I will be following up on it and more supervising it in the next term. So for me, it's important to understand that brand transitioning to a brand is not something short term, but it's a long term, and it needs a long term work. So the work that has been done till now, it's amazing work, and it is only important to follow up on that work that has been done and to supervise it on how we can implement the new branding in a right way, in a correct way, and how we can orient our members, our officials, our assistants, the upcoming ones, about this new brand, and how we can portray ourselves, portray IFMSA through the new brand, because the new brand does not only contain corporate identity, but it's even more than that, and how that reflects on our day-to-day work and our representation is very important. So one of my important plans is to follow up on the branding and to create as much as competency models, webinars, workshops to orient our members and orient our assistants and team of officials about the importance of this new branding, and how we can really take all the advantage of it, and how this new branding can be an opportunity for IFMSA to reach a bigger audience and to present itself on a bigger platforms and in newer ways. Next. So, and a part of it is also our social media. Like looking back on our social media, it has seen a lot of development. It has increased a lot. It has grown a lot within our members, within our partners and stakeholders. So I take really high importance on managing our social media in a more uniformized way, and how we can also implement the brand on our social media, one of the platforms that we reach most of our members. So for me, social media in itself is a great platform, because through social media, it helps us to reach a lot of more audience, a lot of more new audience, and to continuously represent ourselves and represent IFMSA and its updates and its achievements through our social media. And if we talk about social media, we cannot dismiss campaigns, because campaigns also have, social media campaigns especially, have been a big part of our social media for the past terms. And it is important to create new frameworks that organizes how we are carrying out campaigns, and how we can monitor our campaigns, and how we can analyze and build up on our campaigns, so that we are not just doing campaigns that are visually nice, that are engaging, but also that are impactful and that can reach audience and can make a change, or that calls to action. And through that, we can also show what IFMSA advocates for, and how we can sparkle the initiation in our audience. So this campaigns is also something that I'm planning to more uniformize and have a uniformized framework that can help us, and also the next terms, to carry out properly and more impactfully. Next, please. Again, capacity building, as mentioned earlier, it's also the backbone of our organization. It helps our members to make them ready to carry out their tasks in the best way possible. And so for me, it is really nice to know the initiatives that have been taken around capacity building and PRC, because public relations and communication is relatively new in the capacity building world. So and there has been great initiatives in standardizing workshops for capacity building and public relations and communication. So I'm planning to work, and I'll be implementing more of these PRACT workshops and more PRC workshops in pre-regional meetings, pre-GAs, and even make them more common part of the SRT, so that we have more capacitated PRC enthusiasts from all around our animals, not just within our international team, but also to create this important link to the public relations and communication representatives from animals, and to help them increase their the visibility and the visibility of their animals, and also their capacities in the public relations and communication field. And one more thing is that I mentioned earlier is also the competency models on how we can increase the capacity building of our international team and program coordinators and team of officials in terms of PRC and public relations, and how they can implement new brandings, and how they can create contents. Because as IFMSA is growing, we are constantly, the number of our contents are increasing. So it is also necessary to increase the capacity of our officials and their assistants in terms of public relations and communication. Next. And yes, the marketing strategy. I think the marketing strategy is a great tool to guide us for the next few terms, because there has already been great marketing strategy previously, but I find it important to work on new marketing strategies that can help us guide us for the next 3 terms or more, so that we know how we are going with our social media, how we are going with our marketing in general, and how that can help us to increase our reach, our engagement, how to or like unlock new platforms, and how we can explore new platforms and new trends that helps IFMSA to be more engaged and to be more present in the online and the digital world. Next, please. Yes. So lastly, I want to talk about the Exchange database because it has been one of the great initiatives as well. And throughout its development in this term, it's important for me to follow up on its transition and to ensure that it's optimally functioning. We have an optimally functioning Exchange databases, and not just the Exchange database, but to also follow up on all of our databases, and on how we can also drive more traffic to our website as well, and how we can benefit from the new redesigning of our website, and how we can engage more members, more external people on learning more about IFMSA through our website, and also like through many ways, for example, blog posts and similar things, and how we can enhance the search engine optimizations, so that IFMSA is not only known on our social media platform, but also on our other platforms such as the website. So this is only a fraction of maybe my vision and my goal for the next term. There's a lot more, but I think this is enough to talk about for now. Overall, I'm really excited for the next term, and on how we can develop more IFMSA, and how we can help to build up on all these amazing initiatives that have been taken in the past terms. So yeah, this is from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mustafa. So we have learned a lot about the IFMSA journey in the PRC departments. And I'm just really thrilled how far we have come already. It's really important, basically, not only for the IFMSA, but for other NGOs and for other youth organizations, to actually use the tools of the PR and communication to be heard, to be seen, not only in online settings, but also in the real life, especially right now during COVID pandemic, when we see a lot of fake news spreading on social media. And it's really important to actually have that voice, to have that platform to share our voice and to share the important things and to be heard, to make our members engaged, to reach to our stakeholders. So thank you so much for sharing. Now I will give the floor to Ines. I will stop sharing the screen.
Thank you so much, Olga, and thank you so much, everyone, for sharing with us your journey through IFMSA. So since I'm more like an external affairs person, but always interested in how the social media and how PR can actually help in developing our advocacy efforts, I would like to ask, I have one question, this first question, which is, what do you think is the role of PR and communication in supporting advocacy and external affairs? And how do you think that has evolved throughout the years? So for this first question, we will have 3 people replying. And so for the first one, I'll ask Saad to reply.
Thank you, Ines, for your question. I think I will just say something I've said to Amin, I think during the handover, that the line between advocacy and communication is very thin. And actually it's very different to differentiate between these two components. For me, like when we are talking communication, we are talking internal communication, like just how to convey messages to the rest of the team, how to talk with the IT, with the members. And then we are talking about external communication, and it involves directly how we promote our stances and how we share our opinions. And this is, you can call it advocacy, you can call it communication for development. There are some organizations that they call their advocacy efforts like communication for development. But for me, it's like two things that go hand by hand. And with this comes the necessity of a clear guidelines between the VP and the VPPRC. Both officials should know their responsibilities and should know how to make sure that the policy document that we write and that we vote in meetings will not just be kept as documents uploaded on a server in some place, but rather will go to the members and will go to the targets from like communities that we need to change. And yeah, like these two concepts for me are really, really related. And this is why like VPE should be a PRC sensitive person, and VPPRC should know what are the objectives, what are the main advocacy points that IFMSA should share. And this synergy between the two is really important.
Okay, thank you, Saad. And since we already learned that in the past, the way that PR and communication worked in external affairs was, and when related to PR and communication, was really different, also because we had a different structure. So now I would like to ask Mustafa Ozan the same question. What do you think is the role of PRC in supporting advocacy and external affairs?
Actually, it is an interesting question because IFMSA has its advocacy on throughout the years, but the ways that we had advocacy was different, and it changes according to the needs of the time. And I think, for example, whenever one of our officials or our VPE attends to an external event and meeting, and if it's about something that we make advocacy and create policies about it, it was important to highlight the major topics, the things that IFMSA supports, the things that IFMSA believes during those meetings throughout our social media channels. And I remember that whenever we have a delegation to a meeting that IFMSA cares about, we had the team, the delegation, the head of delegation had access to our social media channels and our website to publish what is about the event is about, and what aspect that it affects IFMSA. And that was the way that we had PRC supporting advocacy back at the time. But I believe that creating more visible documents, more active tools that are being used today, we can achieve more impact throughout the whole world. Because for a couple of years ago, people cared about different platforms and different tools, but now we use different methodologies, and with every new generation, the attention span and the things that they care about changes. So we have to figure out this as well to ensure that we are picking our audience right and making our advocacy efforts to be heard, not just by our members and our peers, but also it should be heard about governments and our other partners that has authority in these fields. I think that was something that we can care about, and PRC can help with those tasks, I believe.
Thank you so much, Mustafa. You also raised some interesting points that I'll get back to them in the next question. But still in this question, and because maybe people are wondering what we are going to do perhaps in the future, also to tackle this part of IFMSA social media and external affairs. And since we had actually an online meeting where we started discussing this, Mustafa, so maybe you would like to give us your point of view as well.
Yes, thank you, Ines. So yeah, like as what has been mentioned, PRC and external affairs are two divisions that really complete each other. It's not only enough for IFMSA to advocate for something, but it's also important to know how we can communicate these advocacies and how we communicate our policies to our audience and how we represent those. It is important for IFMSA to work on with our external affairs, and especially on our social media and in our online presence, to portray the external events, the external achievements that IFMSA have been achieving, and how we can communicate these, and how we can share this with our members and with our audience in a way that is optimal, and that goes along with our strategies. For me as well, it's something that is important for both the PRC division to know about the external affairs, and for external affairs to know about the PRC division, because they are both somewhat completing each other. So this is what I think of it.
Thank you, Mustafa, and thank you everyone for your answers. And now we'll move to another question, and I'll pick on something that was said, which is about reaching not only to IFMSA members, but to other not only important stakeholders, but even other medical students that sometimes aren't aware that IFMSA exists. So, and also, as we have seen, the different tools that we have been using throughout the years, like Instagram or Facebook, they relate directly with what's going on in the social media and with the target that we want to achieve. So taking all this into account, and also taking into account that social media is evolving all the time, where do you see the IFMSA social media, and where do you see the biggest potential in social media for youth NGOs and for IFMSA? And I'll ask Jose.
Okay, so regarding reaching more students and partners, I see that we still have LinkedIn to improve in IFMSA, as I recall, and this is a good way to reach other partners and to get messages from other partners. And if we post more there, I think more people, more partners, more potential organizations can and will reach to us. So LinkedIn is one of the platforms I see some potential to develop. Yes, Firas was saying TikTok is the future. Yes, I was discussing this with Ines, that young people right now are using a lot TikTok, but also Twitter. I've seen, at least in Portugal, there was a boom of people, young people using TikTok and also Twitter in the past year. So I think we should also increase our engagement in those two platforms. And Instagram is also a good thing to keep, as well as Facebook. But I think that those two are the main ones that we will and should invest. And that's
Thank you so much, Jose. And now, Feras.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I've been out of IFMSA for a while, but I have always been following the news, and every time you see a new update and every time you see how presenting this update and this news changes, even though we're using the same platforms, but the way we're putting it out is evolving. Sad in his part, talking about his term, said, you know, only an agile organization can survive, and we just have to go with the flow. Like, we have to know where our audience is, where our potential stakeholders are, and, you know, cater to them the content that we want to put out. Be it either to, you know, have them join our advocacy or our fight, or, you know, just to inform them of what we are doing. With every new generation, there's a new platform, and there's no denying TikTok is booming now. As previously, Instagram was the big thing, and before that, Facebook and Twitter. So yeah, we have to study and all of the benefit that we could get, but also at the same time, you know, what we have to do in order not to jeopardize our status as a big player in advocacy. We have not, we cannot forget that we have connections and partnerships with very big names, and we have to maintain a certain level of professionalism. But if we can make it modern, if we can make it, I hate the word, but if we can make it cool, and people join in on it, so why not?
Thank you so much. Yeah, some interesting points also for Mustafa to think about them. So I saw that Amin was also nodding a lot with his head. So Amin, I want you to also reply to this question.
Thank you, Ines. I think Firas has summarized it perfectly. I very much agree with what he said. I think that, you know, like, sometimes change can be difficult. Sometimes when you have like a new trend going on or a new platform, we're hesitant at first. I mean, for example, this term, I had a lot of members coming out to me asking me about TikTok, and I know that TikTok is the new thing. Like, I've seen it everywhere on social media. I've seen what is similar to the Instagram Reels. I've seen like the dances, the trends, and everything. And as much as I didn't necessarily, you know, agree to it at that time, or maybe didn't know how to put IFMSA there at the time, I also know that TikTok can be the future because it's the exploding platform right now. And so, I think it's all in, only an agile organization can survive, quote inside again. We have to adapt. We have to be flexible. We have to know where our audience is, and we have to reach that audience, whether it's on a platform that we like or that we are familiar with or not. And we have to study those platforms. We have to reach our audience, whatever it is. So I think one of the things that, just maybe a last point, one of the things that we lack in IFMSA a little bit is this flexibility. We have like a lot of procedures, we have a lot of policies, a lot of guidelines. And I think something to reflect on for the future, and something that I would definitely recommend, is to kind of like leave some room for flexibility and for IFMSA to be able to adapt on the spot, and not to have it always as a project, you know, to make that big project in order to maybe to adapt to some social media platform. Because sometimes we might take too long and lose, the momentum and just be a little bit late or a little bit far behind. So yeah.
Yeah, and for sure, I definitely agree with that last part, especially when it comes to external affairs. Like you tweet on the spot, you don't think before what you're going to tweet in certain occasions. So yeah, so thank you so much, Amin. And now I have one last question, and this will be for everyone. Yeah, how have you imagined IFMSA PRC in 2, 3, or 4 years? How do you imagine it? And okay, we'll start with Mustafa. Mustafi.
Okay, that's me, I guess. Thank you, Ines. So how I see PRC is that in the next 3 or 4 years, to be an independent division within IFMSA that functions on its own. It's not only a division that performs tasks from other officials, from other assistants, but it's also a functioning division that does its own research, does its own work and publication, and works on what they think is important within IFMSA. Let's say, for example, campaigns. I think so for social media campaigns, for example, the PRC team should be in the center of it instead of just officials, because it is at the end, the PRC team who knows most about how we can engage with our members and in what ways and what contents can really engage in our members. And I also would like to see IFMSA in 3 or 4 years with a very strong brand positioning, and how we have positioned ourselves in the minds of our members and our audience and our partners as a strong medical student organization. And basically the PRC to be very up-to-date, very modern, of smart and people who can only move it forward. Because there's still a lot of room for improvement within the public relations and communication in IFMSA. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Mustafa. And now I'll pass it to our other Mustafa.
In my term, we were trying to create the position, and understanding the PRC of IFMSA was a huge challenge to understand what we can do with it and how we can improve it. And creating policies and trying to work within the policies and training other officials on these policies, it was a challenge. But when I see this presentation today by my successors, I'm really happy to see the outcomes, because what we have started has improved very much. And seeing that IFMSA maintains its communications, handling PR through professional companies and working with stakeholders in a professional level, shows that the position and the relations improved very well. It was the presentations today was beyond my imagination from a couple of years ago, and I'm really happy to see the evolution. But I don't know, it's really cool. I'm out of speech right now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And now, Jose.
I think IFMSA is moving towards modernizing because now you are having a new brand, and I hope it keeps being fortified, because with a change, you need to sustain it. You need to show outside that you are still a good organization, one of the big players as well. Despite the change, I hope and I believe that IFMSA will keep their status within the partners and within the members. And I hope IFMSA keeps also trying to be better and keeps consulting other organizations and is not afraid to ask for help when they need. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. And now Feras.
I think the sky's the limit for Reed, because back in my term, we had difficulties thinking about online voting. And then a couple of years later, we were having online GAs. You know, if you go back to one of the most memorable quotes that we have from Professor Eric Holz, the first IFMSA president, he used to say, "The impossible we do tomorrow." And we really don't realize that today we are taking steps and we are doing something that people before us thought were impossible. And we only see the outcome of it a few years in advance. Having been in IFMSA and having known people in IFMSA, be it at the local, national, or international levels, we have the talents, we can forge the skills, and you know, with a bit of intent and you know a bit of additional support and resources, really the progress that we can see in the next few years is unimaginable.
Thank you so much, Firas. And now I'll pass it to Saad.
Thank you, Ines. I'm just gonna follow up on what Firas said, that it's sometimes it can this impossible can happen like in few years. It doesn't have to be like 10 or 5 years. And I have a personal story with this. In my first term as NMO president, I think 2017, I was member of task force for live streaming. And for months, we were investigating how can IFMSA live stream their plenary, and like if we're really going to live stream the plenary or the session or both. And we had a lot of discussion. I was really, because I had this love for all the streaming thing, so we proposed like a basic system for live streaming, and I presented it like first for Theo with Firas and then in front of all NMOs. And no one was feeling that this could be possible. Like we were receiving questions if this is technically possible, if we can have it or not. And just 2 years later, with Jose, we live streamed August meeting Taiwan, and like few months later, we live streamed the Rwanda March meeting, like in a very high quality, with like people could connect from their homes. I think the only word I can see IFMSA is that also I need to emphasize on this is that we should professionalize what we can do so we can concentrate on what really matters. And by saying professionalizing, it's not having someone do work for you, it's just to do the basis and to put the strong basis and the backbone there. And then so officials and IT can do what we really love doing in IFMSA. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's crazy to see how in so little time, like we can do all this. Yeah. And now, Amin, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ines. Yeah, I think everyone said everything already. What I personally love about PRC is that, of course, the creativity, but we learn something new every day. I mean, like there is a new platform, there's a new trend, there is a design technique, there's always everything to learn, there's always everything to try, there's always everything to practice, something to practice. And yeah, as everyone said, sky's the limit. I mean, like there are some things that we didn't think about in the past that now are very, like are the normal. For example, online GAs, online regional meetings. In the beginning of the term, I was like very stressed about how are we going to do this term, like everything switching to online. We have all of the regional meetings. Are we going to cancel this? Are we going to still keep doing it? And here we are. We did all the events that were supposed to be physical. We switched them to online with basically all the requirements of a meeting. And I think that just shows that we can do anything basically that we want, as long as we have the motivation, as long as we do not forget why IFMSA exists. We do not forget the objectives that we have. We keep pushing for our advocacy efforts. We keep pushing for our causes. We keep pushing for our members. We keep pushing to, of course, to be closer to our members, to empower our members, to give them or to provide them with these platforms where they can network, where they can grow, where they can increase their capacity. And I think that sometimes it can be tiring, sometimes it can be difficult, sometimes it can be stressful, but I think at the end of the day, once we see those results coming to life and we see IFMSA growing and adapting and surviving in the middle of this pandemic, it's very, very satisfactory to watch. So I cannot wait to see what Mustafa is going to do next term. I'll be watching very proudly, of course. And yeah, I I guess that today is the 18th of July 2021. Maybe I will look at IFMSA in the 18th of July 2022 or 2023, and I will answer this question and maybe see if whatever I had in mind came to life or not. So yeah, that's it from me.
Thank you so much. I mean, we can see that you are very excited with what IFMSA is going to do next. So this was the last question of our Q&A. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us. And now for the final remarks, I'll pass the word to Amin once again.
Thank you so much. First, thank you so much, Ines and Olga, for moderating this webinar and for the being involved in the preparation and all the support that you have provided throughout this webinar. So yeah, as final remarks, I would like to thank our speakers. It's truly, truly, truly an honor. I mean, I have never imagined to be able to be in the same online room as I called it yesterday with all of you. And it happened today, and it has been an honor. All of you have been like an inspiration for everything that I've been doing this term. Should it be capacity building, website, brand, everything is a buildup of what you have done, and nothing that we are being able to do today would have been possible without all of your contributions and all of your work and all of your efforts. So thank you so much for everything that you have done for IFMSA, and thank you so much for being here. This will be like a highlight for me for IFMSA. I will never forget this. And of course, thank you also to Mustafa for being here and for presenting your plans. We wish you, like all of us, I assume wish you all the best for your term, and all of us will be watching, as Sad wrote already. And yeah, thank you also to the audience that have been watching us. It has been an honor to host this webinar in the honor of or in the occasion of the IFMSA 70th anniversary. And I hope that for this anniversary or for the August meeting, our members realize how, because sometimes when you see like things happening, people tend to think maybe that it's easy, or maybe that is something that is just happening maybe this term or this day. But I hope that everyone realized the progress or the evolution or the work that has been put on in making IFMSA what it is today throughout the terms and throughout the years. And for all of us to just leave something for the people that will come after us, and to keep IFMSA strong, a big player, as everyone has said already, in the global health field. And yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you all so much again. And I hope that this will not be the last webinar or the last occasion that we meet, maybe sometime physically somewhere. And yeah, this is the end of the webinar. Thank you to our audience, and I hope that everyone has enjoyed as much as I did. So thank you so much, and I guess I will see you soon.